In this video, I'm going to round up the best TVs from the top TV brands at CES 2021 and then pick one to receive our HDTVTest Best of CES 2021 award. This video is sponsored by Box, the online technology store. Visit box.co.uk for the best deals on TVs, soundbars, and all your other technology needs. Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTVTest here. CES is almost coming to a close, and we have seen various manufacturers announce their flagship televisions. So let's start off with Samsung, who, as always, was the first to announce their lineup for the year ahead. And there are two flagship TVs to contend with, and those are the 8K QN900A and also the 4K QN95A in the UK and Europe, or QN90A in the States. Now, the new thing about Samsung this year is that they are going to be using mini LED backlight technology, and the company has branded this as the new QLED range. And hence, when you look at the model numbers of Samsung's 2021 television, if you see a prefix QN in the model number, it means that it is new QLED. It has mini LED backlighting technology. Now, the advantages of mini LED backlighting are numerous, and you can allow for more local dimming zones because the mini LEDs are so small. You can pack more of them than a conventional LED into the same screen size. So you will have more mini LEDs in the TV itself, and this will allow for better segmentation of the number of local dimming zones. But the question remains on whether Samsung will be pushing the envelope in terms of the number of local dimming zones, because currently we still do not have any information whatsoever about the number of local dimming zones that are going to be implemented on not only the 4K QN90A but also the 8K QN900A. Is it going to be hundreds? Is it going to be thousands? I do not know. No one knows except Samsung's engineers themselves, and maybe later in the year, probably in the next month or so, there may be some range reveal events where the company will be divulging these numbers, and I shall be reporting back if I actually hear anything concrete. But the other advantage of mini LED backlighting is backlight uniformity. So if you can imagine, the mini LEDs can be packed more densely within the screen itself. So it will be able to illuminate the diffuser plate and also the screen in a more even manner, and hopefully that will cure some of the dirty screen effect or FALD grid appearance that we saw on last year's Samsung QLEDs. So that's Samsung, and I want to jump very briefly to talk about TCL. They basically showed their 8K 6 series, and they also announced a trio of super large 85-inch TVs that the company is calling the XL collection. But the reason why I jumped across to TCL is because they are the pioneer of mini LED TVs. To be honest, they have started producing and selling mini LED televisions as early as back in 2019 with the 8 series Roku TV in the States, and they also started selling more affordable ones such as the 6 series last year in the States as well. And I think from the point of view of their concrete offerings currently at CES, their most attractive TVs are going to be the super large 85-inch 7 series or the 8K 6 series, which I hope is going to be one of the more affordable 8K sets on the market. But they haven't actually shown their hand of their really high-end set yet, even though they have actually promoted this OD0 mini LED backlight technology. We do not know of a concrete TV, not even a model number of a TV that will be using that technology. So from that point of view, I don't consider that we have actually seen the true flagship from TCL at this CES 2021 yet. So after dealing with Samsung and TCL, let's turn our attention to 3 TV manufacturers who are offering OLED TVs within their portfolio, namely LG Electronics, Panasonic, and Sony. Now, for the first time in the history of OLED TVs, all three OLED brands will be offering OLED models which is capable of higher peak brightness than conventional OLEDs. So LG has launched the G1 series, and it will have an OLED Evo panel which is capable of higher peak brightness. This will also mean that the G1 series will be superior in picture quality, I think, to the step-down C1 series. And traditionally from LG, the C series OLED have always been the most successful and the most popular because it essentially has the same picture quality with higher up models, yet it is the most affordable. That has changed this year. So if you want the best picture quality from LG this year, you have to go for the G1 series. So maybe C is the new B for LG. But G1 series will be available in 55-inch, 65-inch, and 77-inch screen sizes. Let's turn our attention to Panasonic. Panasonic will have the JZ2000 4K OLED, and it will be using a similar heatsink technology as the company's 2019's JZ2000 and also the company's 2020's flagship HZ2000. And it will only be available in 55 inches and 65 inches, but this year the company has pledged to add HDMI 2.1 gaming support features, but the company still wouldn't want to comment on whether it is capable of 4K 120Hz or not. They only specified high frame rate within its press release, and to me, high frame rate could mean 1080p 120Hz, it could mean 1440p 120Hz, and I pressed the company repeatedly to try and get an answer of whether your chipset, your HDMI 2.1 chipset, is capable of 4K 120Hz or not. To no avail, because they said that they haven't finalized the specification. So from that point of view, I cannot comment on whether the HDMI 2.1 chipset on the Panasonic JZ2000 is even 40 gigabits per second or 48 gigabits per second, but I would certainly hope that it is one of these two, and it is capable of 4K 120Hz when we learn more about the JZ2000 in a March reveal event. From that, we go across to Sony, and we are primarily interested in their flagship Master Series A90J OLED. Now, before I proceed to talk about more things, I just want to make it very, very clear, if it was not clear in my previous videos, that I think, judging from the press releases issued by LG Display, who is the OLED panel supplier, and also briefings that I have attended by these manufacturers, there are two main methods to increase the peak brightness to exceed what a conventional OLED is capable of. And the first method is by using a new OLED panel that has been developed by LG Display. So this will be using new OLED materials and will have a modified OLED stack. And this will allow for higher peak brightness and even brighter APL, or average picture level. And the other method is actually to apply a metallic heatsink, similar to how Panasonic has done so on the GZ2000 and also the HZ2000. So bear in mind that there are two separate methods that can allow an OLED panel to achieve even higher peak brightness. Now, here's the thing. When I attended briefings by these three manufacturers and when I read their press materials, I think, only Panasonic and Sony are using the heatsink method. And I don't think LG has mentioned heatsink in its press material. It hasn't actually mentioned it in its briefing, so it makes me suspect that they are actually not using any heatsink for heat dissipation to cool down the OLED panel to achieve the higher peak brightness. They are relying on the panel itself with the newly developed OLED material and also the modified OLED stack to achieve the higher peak brightness. Now, here's the thing, I do not know for sure whether this new OLED panel that is being supplied by LG Display will be present on the Panasonic JZ2000, or it will be present on the Sony A90J or not. There's just no way for me to find out now. But I have devised a few methods in my mind that can find out quite easily if I manage to get the TVs in for review, and I should be able to tell whether a panel is using the new OLED panel, which is branded as OLED Evo by LG G1, and 2, whether they are actually using a metallic heatsink to cool down a panel, and 3, whether they are actually using both. They could be using both the new panel and also a metallic heatsink, potentially allowing for even higher peak brightness, or maybe if they don't want to actually go for that higher peak brightness, they can actually extend the lifespan of the display. So from that point of view, I think each manufacturer will have their own philosophies, and they will have their own algorithm to try and drive the OLED panel. And I think this will be an interesting battle between LG, Panasonic, and Sony this year. And before I start to try and come out with my choice of the best of CES 2021 television, I want to just say that they are going to be superb, in terms of picture quality, and the way I choose it is based on something really arbitrary. So I will just say that the LG G1 will be available in 55, 65, and 77 inches, and the Panasonic JZ2000 will be available in 55 and 65 inches, while the Sony Master Series A90J will be available in 55, 65, and a massive new for 2021, 83 inches. So the way I see it is, if you want the biggest 4K OLED panel with the higher peak brightness technology that is afforded by either a new OLED panel supplied by LG Display through the newly developed OLED material or a modified OLED stack, or through the application of a metallic heatsink, then the Sony 83-inch A90J is your only choice, because the LG G1 doesn't come in 83 inches. And so I have decided to pick the Sony A90J in the 83-inch version to receive our Best of CES 2021 award. And the thing is, I just do not know how expensive this TV will be, bearing in mind that it is going to be Master Series. Okay, it is going to be the company's highest tier flagship OLED. It is 83 inches in screen size. Before 2021, there have been no 83-inch OLEDs before in the 4K version, and it will be using a heatsink application, which will maybe drive up the cost, and it will be capable of even high peak brightness. It will have HDMI 2.1. It will have TV like Dolby Vision. So I do not know for sure what the price is going to be, but hopefully it is not too expensive, or else I'll have to start an OnlyFans account early. But let's see, what the price comes in at. But I think, the 83-inch Sony A90J is my pick for our Best of CES 2021 award for these reasons I've just listed. It is basically the biggest 4K OLED panel that you can buy with a high peak brightness technology, either through the new panel supplied by LG Display or through a metallic heatsink. And I think, if you have been following my channel, you may be aware that last year I picked the smallest 4K OLED, which is the 48-inch CX or C10, as my choice for the Best of CES 2020. And this year I picked the biggest 4K OLED, which is the Sony A90J, as my Best of CES 2021. So I hope I just don't give the wrong impression to a casual onlooker who may think that I am somewhat obsessed with size. But if you'd like to watch more videos on CES 2021 televisions, I've created a playlist here if you'd like to click on it, and I will see you in the next video.